Right. So this thing's been recorded this whole time. So we got a lot of like outtakes and bloopers for later on that we can like pull from. But anyway, not the whole Chev, I can't see your face. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Looking very for the beard, I must say.
I appreciate that. Working on it.
Just come on, just.
What's good, fam? This is Black Coffee, and this is the Black Coffee Podcast. I will be your co-host this evening. I'm gonna shoot it to my left and let my attendees introduce themselves. Starting with KP, we call her Curry Girl. The Jamaican flavor.
It's actually curry gal.
Curry gal. Come on, bro.
Okay. Hi, you guys. I'm Kim. I'm his. What did you say? Attendees. I'm actually his wife. So yeah. So what's up?
Whoever wants to take it next. Everyone's away.
All right.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
My name is Jimmy. I am a clinical psychologist in training at Hagen University in Louisville, Kentucky. I am currently providing services for Black and refugee individuals at 12 University. And I'll be moving to Denver soon to start working there. So there's a little bit about me and what I do.
All right, congrats again, brother. Moving on to bigger, better things. Leaving
Denver, okay.
Yeah, leaving one
I see you. Well, it's cold out there.
Yeah, I know. It's also sunny.
It's beautiful
Right,
though. The
Julian,
mountains are
yourself,
gorgeous.
my man.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Julian. I'm a musician / producer. That's about it for me.
Also a guru in training. Keeps everyone in this group grounded.
Damn. Hey, I appreciate it. He said it. I didn't.
All right, Sash, talk to us, young one.
Okay, I'm Sashana. I go by Sash. I'm a student. I have one more semester left at UCF, speech pathology, and I'm also a singer-songwriter.
Okay. The Black creatives in abundance here. I like it. Lastly, Chev, the pilot.
What's up, everybody? My name's Siobhan, but everybody calls me Chev or Chevy, whichever one. But I'm just out here trying to live my best life, creative mind. Yeah.
He's also an engineer, you guys. Just,
Engineer.
Exactly.
I mean, that creativity is something that we all like in this group kind of share. I guess I didn't actually say what I do. I guess I'm the professor. Professor, doctor of physical therapy. Been working about 8 years in my field. But yeah, that's me. Go ahead, KP.
I am, again, Kim, his compadre. I'm a general surgery physician assistant. I wear multiple hats. So that's what I do as a career. But I am, just like what Chev said, just trying to make it here and trying to elevate myself as a Black woman, better yet, human being.
Awesome. There we go. All right. So I wanted to get these Black faces together in one place, talk about the current events of this. Of course, we all are very familiar with each other here, family. But yeah, so this is, what's today's date? May the 31st, 2020. And we all know about 6 days ago, it's kind of like been going on in society, one of the recurring series of events that unfortunately negatively impacts our community, the Black community. So with that, I just wanted to ask, how's everyone feeling? How's everyone doing?
Since I'm next to you, I'll answer at least for me. I am going through multiple emotions, but currently I am angry as fuck. So yeah, that's what it is. Trying to navigate as best as I can with just constant, I guess, constant just bombardment of information and opinions or whatnot. But I'm very angry right now, just because of it just seems it's plain as day, like it's not right, but it seems to be right to people.
All right. Anybody else want to take it? How you feeling?
Similar,
Go ahead.
similarly to Kim, just I'm currently in Louisville, Kentucky, so there has been some direct exposure to some of this stuff with my friends and colleagues and things of that nature. So it's been very distressing. With that being said, I'm also inspired. I'm also energized to some capacity because of all of the protests and all the people who are speaking out, being that people of color. So that's keeping me up at the very least.
Okay. Sash, I think you're about to go next as far as how you feeling?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I've been feeling sad, very sad. I have to stop kind of going on social media because we all wake up. Well, not all of us, but at least for me, I know I wake up. I'll check like my phone, see if I have any missed calls, text messages. Then I'll check like my social media, see if anybody tried to reach me out, like contact me through there. And then just like first thing in the morning, first thing before I go to bed, just seeing a whole bunch of protest videos and Black men, Black women like being beaten and just all this stuff. It's been very disheartening, and I would say like there is a part of me that's angry, but overall I'm really sad about it. Very sad.
All right, I'm gonna shoot it over to Julian next.
I think in me right now, there's space for, every emotion, right now, you know, seeing, I was compelled to watch the video of George Floyd because that happened most recently and that seemed to spark everything else that's going on right now. So, I was compelled to watch the video. Usually I don't watch, the graphic videos or anything of that nature. And I avoid it, but this time I seen that there was kind of that sense of a responsibility to know what's going on and to be informed. So I was compelled to watch it. And it just, you have to have that space in you that's sad about it. So for me, that's that feeling, and then seeing all the people around, his family, his sister spoke about it. I watched videos on all of that. I seen videos of people protesting on what's going on in the streets. So it's kind of shocking to me too, like seeing all the protests, the violence. So, I don't want to go too far, jump too far ahead, but I think, seeing all of this has me shocked, saddened, angry, but all of these feelings could be there. I'm not, at the same time, I'm also blessed, so I always take that into, combining it with all the rest of the feelings. So that's kind of the mixture of what I'm feeling right now.
I hear you. So yeah, Chef, talk to us a little bit.
I second Julian on a lot of that. It's good that he brings it up. I myself, I didn't watch the video. A few weeks ago, everybody knows about Ahmaud Arbery. I watched that a few times, and that really moved me at that point, and took me to a place like even before all of this, where I was just pretty much just like a mix, just a pot of all those emotions: sad, angry, inspired, moved. It's all just boiling in there and mixing around. And with the recent events, you got to know yourself. And knowing myself, I know that that's not something I wanted to take in at that point. I, did my due diligence and looked around and try to figure out exactly what, but I didn't watch that video because I just know it was gonna do more, I guess, damage or pain to me in the moment than I wanted. And but outside of that, like I feel the same as everybody else,
All right. So it's interesting. I'll make a comment on what you and Julian mentioned before I go to the next person, but it's interesting, like the variance as far as like who watched the video, who didn't watch the video, and we throw in occurrences that have happened before. This video I happened to watch, speaking specifically about George Floyd, but Ahmaud Arbery actually didn't watch that video, and personally within myself to where I couldn't watch that one, and hearing like the descriptors of people who actually did, I couldn't bring myself to actually click play on something like that. So again, the variance and the different approaches, to your point, Chev, about knowing kind of like maybe what your limit is and how much tragedy you can basically consume at any given point. Great point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna, before we go to Nana, I watched both videos, and most times I watch videos, not all, but most times, and like both times I cried, but this time it was too short in space for me. And then I also watched the other video with Amy Cooper, and that I should have been real with myself. And I don't know why I wasn't, but that was overload. And that's also, I mean, I've gone through a lot of these emotions that you guys have said, but I feel like I'm stuck on anger right now. Anger and action, but still anger. And yeah.
That's real.
I haven't watched any of the videos. If I like see it pop up and it starts playing, I just know that my heart's way too fragile to watch it. I can barely watch protests without shedding tears. So I know, like, just seeing innocent Black men and women being killed, like, I don't think I'll be able to handle that. So I haven't watched any of it.
Julian, I think you were going to say something as well.
No, not at all. But I mean, I'll throw in. I didn't watch the Ahmaud one.
Yeah.
Like I said, usually I don't watch these things for the same reasons that everyone else is commenting on. Is I don't stomach these types of things, especially violence. Period. You know what I mean? But so I understand these too. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And that's really all I wanted to say on that.
I guess a quick point. Like to your point, Kim, I guess we kind of, with having that, information so readily accessible, like you almost have to like take a sense and just like think like, is this something that like I want to consume? Like how, will this affect me? Is this something like I would just become desensitized to? Like I know somebody and we're good friends, and they watch videos like that. They like horrific stuff, and like that's just something they watch, and I feel like at this point they're just desensitized to it. Like they're not, it's nothing anymore, right? And like that combined with trying to figure out like what that will actually do, what other emotions that I get tapped on. Like you say you're stuck on anger right now. I feel like I would be in the same way. Like I feel it there, and I know if I hit play on that, it's just like that's where I'll be at also.
Yeah. Don't do it if you're not there.
Yeah.
Because you don't know until you don't know what your reaction is, and I feel like you said, things are just easily accessible, and sometimes you don't really realize what you're about to watch until it's happening. And it's, I wish I could say I became desensitized. I mean, I don't wish that, but you know, maybe it wouldn't be so painful. But I don't think I can ever, me personally, can ever be desensitized to this stuff, because I identify with so many of these people. Despite being a man, I'm Black. And Black women, Black children, Black men are just, it's, you're Black, and that's what happens more often than not. So,
So I'm gonna give, we had another member join on this talk. I'm gonna give Kiana a chance to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her, what you do, etc. As we all had a chance to do before we really do a deep dive into this whole topic. Go ahead, Nah.
All right, my name is Guyana Hayes. 22 years old. I'm a stay-at-home mom. But I definitely want to say that I feel everybody. I feel like my emotions are a combination of how everybody's feeling. I'm upset, I'm hurt, I'm sad, and I can't find myself to watch any of those videos. And it's even harder because I wish that I could, so that I could explain to my own son, you know, when he gets older. But I can't find myself to do that, and I'm just like emotionally not ready for that. But I'm definitely hurt. I wish that I could be out there protesting. I definitely wouldn't be so violent with it, but I would love to be able to be out there and say that I did do my due diligence and that I did spread the word as much as I could. And it hurts that I can't be out there right now. I'm also hurt at the fact that it's come this far. Not that it hasn't already been where it is right now, but it's just like, it's crazy the way that things are going right now, and you don't expect it. It's like one day everything's fine, and the next day it's just like things like this happen. It's stressful. It's very stressful. It's hard to sleep at night. It's hard to get through the day without seeing another post. But my emotions are all over the place.
Yeah, so on that note, if it isn't abundantly clear already, we're speaking about the public murder of one George Floyd in Minneapolis. Seemingly, after, knowingly or not, George tendered a fake currency or bill to a store, and subsequently the police were involved in the, if you have been paying attention to any sort of media, whether you've seen the video or not, then you know the subsequent outcome. But it's just a series of what seems to be recurrent mishandlings, and that ultimately leads to the death of young Black men and women within this society. So with that, my next question would be, with these injustices that we're seeing as Black people, what is our responsibility? How do we, one, deal with this, and how do we move forward?
If you don't mind, I'd like to start with this one. So the responsibility, that's a tough question. I will say any Black person right now who is breathing is doing their due diligence. Like I don't want there to be this sense of you have to be doing something to feel like you're doing something. Like breathing alone in itself is a representation of resistance. Being alive, being there for other Black people is a representation of resistance. Delivering food to those who are struggling, taking care of somebody else emotionally, being the ear for them to listen to, that is a form of resistance. If your form of resistance is sitting there with somebody and praying, that's one. If it is marching, and being out in the streets, that is also another valid form. If it is I'll personally say this, burning down things and causing some sort of destruction to city property. Of course, mindfully avoiding Black businesses organizing around that. I'm fully okay with that. I think those are all forms of resistance, and whatever you do, that's you're fulfilling your responsibility as a Black person. And do not feel obligated to educate white people. Like, we have had to seek out our own materials, research our own history. It is not then our responsibility to disseminate it out to white folks. That is not your responsibility as a Black person. So, you know what? Like, with all that being said, all the Black people out there listening, you are doing everything that you can be right now. Taking care of yourself is doing your due diligence.
Right. Yeah, it's a great point. We'll let the next person take this briefly before we got on air. We're talking, right, Jimmy, because we know plenty of people who approach these things differently, right? You're gonna have those who are foot on the ground, first wave, pushing the barricades forward, etc., versus others who are gonna be more reserved. They'll approach their activism a slightly different way, but there's no real right or wrong way to go about it. Being you in this current societal state is quite enough, is what I'll say to that point.
I am very glad that you said what you said, Jimmy, because I feel like I've seen some celebrities, example Lil Wayne, say that, you know, really question whether if you're not doing something, you're not doing nothing else in regards to the Black community, and that's why he's not whatever. And I just roll my eyes because I feel like everyone processes things differently. Like, I would love to be out there and protest, and I feel like if I wasn't a healthcare professional during a pandemic, I probably would. But there's that other side of me that knows that, you know what, my exposure level is pretty high. I see COVID-19 patients. And then I also know that I am not trying to get COVID-19 for myself or my husband or anything. So it doesn't change the fact that there's still a pandemic out there, and I have to exercise better use of my judgment. Not saying those that are out there aren't using better judgment. And I agree with you. If you want to express yourself with burning things down, or you're that angry, I personally wouldn't, but I am not going to sit here and act like I don't recognize that. Because if this came to my doorsteps personally, I can't guarantee you, and I'm not even going to front with you, that I'm not going to be literally bringing down hell. And I mean that with everything in me. But in my ways of, my responsibility, I'm not educating white people, and I'm also not taking their bullshit. I also feel like in whatever ways I can buy Black, I will make even more effort to buy Black. And that's something that I am adamant about. And I'm also adamant of joining organizations, the NAACP, and whatever organizations that can push forward our agenda. And that's it for me, and yeah. And making sure I'm good, like recognizing the fact that I feel the way that I feel, and I have to code switch constantly outside of this. And now I have to code switch during a pandemic. Mind you, I'm taking care of COVID patients. And then on top of it, I still have to keep myself sane just to make it through the day, because I don't expect someone else to get it, because I don't have colleagues that are in the same position, that look like me, that think like me, and that understand what the Black community is going through. So it's unique, but that's what I'm doing on my end.
Yeah. Who wants to take another go?
You're muted.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a quick point. Just to follow up, just to tag on a few things. There are links out there that if individuals are not feeling up to being out, or that's not their role, because a role in revolution, a role in protesting doesn't have to be boots on the ground. That is a misconception. That is an important role, but that is not the only role. There are bail links for cities where people are protesting and Black folks and other cultural representation of people are being wrongfully arrested. And there are organizations that have posted links so you can donate money. If you want to do that, that's one thing as well. And another organization across the United States that has been pretty good about pushing the envelope forward is Black Lives Matter. And typically all you have to look up is Black Lives Matter, insert the name of your city in Facebook or other social media outlets, and you'll be able to find them there as well. Just wanted to add on to that point.
No, great point.
I just want to say too, since we're talking about, doing and not doing, as far as, being Black and your responsibility, should you have to do something or not. I think this here alone is enough. You know what I mean? Being on talks like this with your friends, your family, I feel like is enough. Not everybody's gonna go out and protest. Not everybody has that temperament to, be out there, especially in violent fashion or, in the peaceful fashion. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I think that's it with what I wanted to say right there.
No, great point. So, Sash, I know you jumped on after being off real quickly, but the question I had posed to the group is really, as Black people, our responsibility to the events that have happened over the past week and those that came before it, months, years prior. Do we have a responsibility to anyone, to ourselves, to address the topic, explain, or educate anyone? What are your thoughts on that?
I like responsibility to speak up. I feel like I think it just really depends on the person too as well. I feel like, speak up, voice your opinion if you feel like it's needed to. I definitely don't feel like we should be silent. But at the same time, kind of like what Julian said, everybody can have their own way of standing up for the movement. You don't have to be protesting. There are other ways to go about it, because like Julian said, everybody has their different personalities, different things they can handle mentally and physically, while some of us can't. So I just feel like as long as you're doing your part to where you feel like you're doing your part for your community and you're sticking up for yourselves and you're sticking up for your community and you're doing the best that you can, then I feel like that should be enough.
Okay.
I would say for me, the two things I see that I feel like hitting them in the pockets and then voting. I think voting for me is probably the biggest one, because there's a reason why, there's been so much, historical pressure and laws put against that. There's a reason why they want to take away, mail-in ballots and all of that. We have to go out there and make our presence felt on that level and be more conscientious of it and put more of an effort into that. I believe that even the youth coming up now, I feel like there's such a presence, and that gets missed a lot of the times. So for me, when the time comes around, because I feel like it's all good, but at the end of the day, it's like, if there's no like reform as far as laws and people who are running this and what the case is, then it's just going to continue to happen. Like if you don't start breaking that down, then that's like the core of it, right? In my mind. So if anything, when the time comes, get out there and vote, and make yourself heard, and if you could, little things, you could buy black or whatever the case is, try to put that effort there. I second, like everybody says, everybody has a different temperament, and I don't expect everybody to be out there protesting or whatever the case is. Like, it's kind of interesting. Like, this is kind of like all this that has been happening is almost, in a sense, like a weird perfect storm, just like for this moment, for all of us to almost like take advantage of it, in a sense, because you have the whole pandemic happening. I mean, usually things like these, okay, they happen, but they kind of blow over. People go back to work. People aren't working. People are out. They have use of their time. They could be out there, and people being seen. People are watching social media, everything, like the news. So it's where it's kind of like an opportune time in a sense, but it's just sad that this is even a thing, and we're in this place. But.
Yeah.
I love what Chef said, because that's such an effective way to make your voice heard. With what you said, go out there and vote. Vote in who you want. Support people that you see could make a change. These are very important points too, because this just shows the sliding scale of different ways to go about your protesting. You don't have to be out in the streets. You could simply know what's going on in politics. I'm not a political person myself, but when I hear Chef say that, and I saw the video he posted with Killer Mike, and he was saying these same things. It's like, yo, we're burning our city down, but go out there and vote in who you want, and all of that. So, I feel that as an important point. I also want to add on to, how we go about, protesting and doing all these things. I feel like showing your humanity, like,
Facts.
is a part of this, because seeing the videos or hearing about it, or seeing the protests or hearing about it, just being aware of it is opening up a space inside yourself to be like, whoa, this is wrong. You know what I mean? So you seeing that it's wrong, you can automatically deter that behavior and kind of hold people accountable, or hold people to that same standard. Because these things that are happening are, they're very lowly acts of humanity. You know what I mean? In the human kingdom, we're so much more capable of so much more range of empathy, compassion, kindness, wisdom. These are the things that need to be valued. I don't mean to go on a tangent, but I like what Jimmy posted in the group chat about, what do you value, property or life? And I feel like in this country, there's been a culture of valuing material, imperishable things versus values that come from the human heart. And the way that I'm speaking is like a simple moment of empathy or compassion would have avoided all of this violence, all of these protests, all of this. 9 minutes of a man, sitting on somebody's neck, and not for 1 second, 4 people involved, not one of them could just have a drop of empathy and deter this whole situation as far as these protests and the violence that's happening in the streets. Just one drop. To me, that is the key point for me. is how much just one little thing can change that whole situation, wipe it clean, and not have it happen at all. So the fact that this happens because of the lack of awareness and empathy, kindness, compassion, all of that is just a clear signal of what we need to shift our focus to, rather than valuing, these silly things or these lowly acts of humanity. Is clear, cut example of valuing what you need to value. So
So to that point, Julian, about what you value, ultimately really to Jimmy's original point, property or life. So one act by another human being towards another could have avoided a lot of what's currently going on. You can say the same thing to all of the past occurrences, right, from earlier this year, previous years, etc. Unfortunately, it seems like for a certain subset or group of the population, talking about us Black people, that humanity that you speak of is often rarely expressed, right? Historically, you can go back to the founding of this country. Certain people seemingly appear to believe that they have a right to protest injustices versus another. You go to the Boston Tea Party, or currently, if you hear about certain cultural groups elsewhere around the world, everyone seemingly is given this platform or allowed to protest, right? Any country that's facing an injustice, any group of people facing injustice, if they say, give me liberty or give me death, then they're applauded globally. But the moment a Black person says something similar here in this country, then all of a sudden it's a completely different tune, right? No one ever approaches our plight or our plea for equality and human rights in the same sense that they do other groups. And that's a historical fact. And yes, that one act of human kindness that you refer to, too often, it's never shown to people of our background.
Yeah. I mean, and as much as it's supposed to be as straightforward and as simple as one human to the next. But the reality is, when you are racist and whether you are actualized in racism or not, you're going to act in that. And because of their lack of humanity, I mean, really and truthfully, I could be wrong, but I don't fully believe, I'm not wrong in this. I don't fully believe what the media is portraying. Okay. So that's complete bullshit. White people are dressed up in all Black, burning down cities, Black cities, or, American cities that we built, and they're portraying it as if we're doing it. Not saying that we're not out there, but they're also out there too. And truthfully, I'm also tired, and I'm not saying eye for an eye, but I'm also tired of Black people having to rise to the occasion. So you can tell me, because you're white, you have certain liberties to be trash. And when we protest against that, whether it's a statement of kneeling versus actually going out, like really coming for you and saying like, this is complete bullshit, we're standing and we're pushing, against this. I just don't think it's fair that we have to not only educate, we're expected to educate. We're also expected to be the one that takes the high road, where we're supposed to bend and move and shake and all these motions. And I just feel like they don't have that. How can the people that are oppressed expecting, to take the high road? What's the high road? Just like, oh yeah, it never happened. That's the thing. It should be simple as humanity and whatnot. And that's why last night when I went on my social media, I said, some of you guys that consider yourself allies, you really aren't. You really have to really look within yourself, really, really have a hard conversation and check your moral compass, because it's not one thing where there's no gray areas. This is obvious. And I'm not gonna use the cliche black and white, like it is obvious, right versus wrong. I don't care if he was stealing, I don't care what it was. If he is not inflicting harm on masses, there is no reason why you cannot de-escalate a situation where a man is restrained. There's no reason at all. When this poor boy was running in his neighborhood jogging, you cannot tell me you're gonna keep your mouth shut. You're not gonna have you're gonna keep this under wraps for months, pandemic or not. It's just, it's clear as day, right versus wrong. And it's human shit. So yes, I would love for humanity to really have decency, but being in the pandemic, y'all went to the grocery stores, y'all know how it was. People are taking all the shit. So you don't even have toilet paper. You don't even have, this week was the first time I've got my hand on some hand sanitizer. Okay? So humanity, I think people need to just really have that deep conversation with themselves and like, am I trash or not? Like, am I a good person or am I not? And if you're not a good person and that bothers you, and if that fuels your guilt, then you need to work on that, because we all have shit. We all have shit. And I'm not saying, you know what, if you realize you've been trash all these years, you should have been supporting, great. What are you gonna do to create that change? But when it comes down to it, Julian, and it's a sad world, and I've realized this, people are not humane as much as they want to think. Everyone wants to take the high road. They like the idea of taking the high road, but they're not for it. If it does not directly affect them, they don't care. So, and in times like this, it's every man for themselves. That's how people look at it. So yeah, it should be basic right versus wrong, but right. It's not that simple. Apparently, clearly.
No, go ahead.
Now that you say that, Kim, if it has nothing to do with them, would they care? Thinking back to it, when, I don't know what year it happened, but when the government burned down Black Wall Street, imagine if the Black community burned down Black Wall Street. You think anybody would bat an eye, blink an eye, care what was going on? But okay, a Target, an AutoZone, Starbucks, and mind you, half of the time it's not even people of color, it's Caucasians that are doing this burning, doing this destructive work, and it's, oh my gosh, the violence. You can't do a peaceful protest. Just yesterday, there's a whole peaceful protest. Everything's fine, nothing's going wrong. Police come in, automatic tear gas, automatic rubber bullets. For what? But a week before then, you had white people, Caucasians, mad they can't get haircuts.
I have to wear a mask.
A mask.
I do that all day long. I'm sorry.
So like when I see videos of people looting stores and all this stuff, to be honest, fuck your merchandise. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm sorry, but merchandise, anything material does not even sum up to a life. And I feel like that's why I'm like so frustrated, because like everybody, if, for example, the world just sees Black lives as something so minuscule and less than. Out of all this going on, all these protests, all these Black lives being taken, why do I look and see a news report saying that Donald Trump is trying to make a bill about social media because he got fact checked on Twitter? That's not the point. That's not the point. So you literally just looked over everything that's going on in Black America, and you're worried because social media. So that means that the Black community is less than to you. And then you want to post, oh, when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Exactly.
Bro, come on now. Like, fuck these materialistic things. Like, it doesn't matter. What matters is lives are being taken. Oh, you can't go to the Target down the street anymore because it's burned down. Fuck your inconvenience. Being Black is an inconvenience. Sadly, everything we go through, everything that we have to deal with, that the majority does not have to deal with, that is an inconvenience to us, but we still prosper and work through it. So it is what it is. Like,
hey, poet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel that.
Now I'm gonna give you a chance to jump in on this this question.
Is this the question about whether we should tell white people or educate them?
Right. It went down many different paths because it's so loaded. But yeah,
Wait, is y'all not stable right now? No, she
Hey,
driving.
look here. I'm not educating no one. Okay, one, because when we were in since we've been in school, when you're in history class, you hear about all the successful white people that have done this and that for us and this and that. But only African Americans you hear about are Martin Luther King. I mean, they don't know nothing else than that. And if you don't know nothing by now after what you've learned in school, then what do you know? You know what I'm saying? You're just ignoring it at this point. You're ignoring it because it's in the books. They know, okay?
Or they don't care to know.
Or they don't care to know.
They don't
You know what
care
I'm saying?
to know.
They don't. And you know what? It's just like you said. It's literally, if it doesn't affect them, then so what? You know what I'm saying? It's not affecting their lives. And that's the problem. It'll never affect their lives. This right here is affecting their lives. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not teaching nobody nothing. You better know something if you walking around here. Somebody done told you something. So no, I'm not going to sit here and have to educate you. No, there's too much going on. There's too much that's been going on that is not under wraps. Everybody knows what's going on.
Well, to that point, a term I like to use when it comes to this like education thing, it's willful ignorance. I like that term because it's not knowing, but is it a choice of not knowing, right? Because the information's out there, just like the information was out there for us as we approached like true adulthood, college, etc. We sought out our actual history, whether it's Caribbean history, African American history, etc., as opposed to just simply what's been told to you. So it's there within the proper sources if you have a desire to actually seek it out. So with most of these people who seemingly talk about one person in Black history, and then in that sense, when we talk about Martin Luther King, they misrepresent his entire platform and his progress from the beginning to his untimely end, and they simply choose to just speak about one aspect of who he was as a activist. Is it a choice to be that ignorant as opposed to just what it actually means to just not know?
You know, the way I look at it, and I mean, I have to be convinced otherwise, but I feel like being Black is apparently a crime to white people because it doesn't matter if we make a peaceful statement. Apparently it's means for you to lose your job or, you know, to get, you know, blackballed in Colin Kaepernick's case. And I think as many other public celebrities. And then there are cases where you're very public and you're out and you're out there and you're protesting or whatnot. And then you get shit for that too. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And to me, it comes back down to this. And I think I had this realization earlier today. People need to really check their moral compass. Like it's as plain and simple as that. Like they just really need to look within themselves. And it's as plain and simple as this, and I don't expect people to be, if you're willfully ignorant, I don't expect you to really do this effectively. I know that. But I really feel like people need to really reassess who they are as a person and what they have been taught. You know, I think it's as basic as that. Will this happen? I hope, but I don't know. But I just feel like being Black is such a crime that it is damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, it's just like, what do you want from me? What makes you feel comfortable? You know, like, do you want me to be quiet? Do you want me just to keep a blind eye to what's happening? You know, none of that's gonna happen. I'm not gonna do that, nor are my people gonna do that. But what is it that makes you feel comfortable? And I feel like white people particularly I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's guilt. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like they're looking for something that makes them feel comfortable. Because I don't understand how someone kneeling didn't make you feel comfortable. That wasn't peaceful enough. Or people actually peacefully protesting, laying on the ground, or, you know, just kind of standing there. I guess that's not peaceful enough. So I really don't know. I just think for them, I don't get it. I really...
To that point, Kim, we talked about like the ends of the spectrum, right? You want to talk about peaceful protesting versus like violent protesting. I don't know how much more peaceful you can get from Colin Kaepernick, a sole individual choosing to kneel or display his dissatisfaction with the current state of things. A singular act that doesn't really affect anyone's well-being in any sense. And everyone meeting outside of the Black community was up in arms about that. And then now we get to this point, and we're seeing the physical manifestations of all that anger, mistrust, and lack of understanding present itself with these protests. I'm gonna use the word protests specifically because when you start to say rioting and so on and so forth, there's a whole other context that brings into the fold. The things that are happening with these protests can't fully be or solely be attributed to us as Black people, because we've seen videos and we know there are other individuals out there, planted or otherwise, who are like inciting a lot of this violence, right? So we can't, although they'll try to put it all on us, we can't bear the brunt of that. So I'll start with you with this question, Jimmy, since I feel like you have a lot to say about this. But historically, what are some forms of resistance, right? Historically, how has issues like this been approached in the past? Is it the same thing like to this day?
So to my understanding, and again, I'm clinical psychology. I do like to think I'm a history buff, and I look into these things. Historically, a lot of the movements, if not all the movements, had a violent component to them to incite some form of change. People back to made the point of white people, I think it was you, Tommy, bastardizing what Dr. King said. He also validated this violent outcry. He also validated, and alongside that, there are different sects and groups of people who had violent outcries to protect their own community. So historically speaking, when you look at, I mean, we can even go back to Haiti liberating itself. That was violent. We can go back to each policy and act that was passed in the United States, that there was a violent component. So when white people are starting to talk to us and direct advice towards Black people on how to protest, on how to do things effectively, they're completely what they're even saying. Like, they don't understand that they're trying to now shackle us with words. They're trying to minimize what we're doing. Words. Learning is a form, to Chev's point, of hitting somebody's pocket. You start hitting people's pockets, you start hitting companies' pockets, people start paying attention. Because in a country where they only value monetary gain or items, when you start to do those things, people start to see, oh, okay, the thing that I maybe value is the wrong thing culturally. America as a society culturally values the wrong thing. America as a society blinds itself willingly because they don't want to face the fact that they have a history of genocidal, maniacal, murderous intent and action. And for them to face the reality that they are not heroes is a devastating reality. Little white baby grow up to know, you know, Santa's gonna give me everything I want. White culture is heroes. We go to other countries, we liberate them. It's like, oh shit, no, we go to other countries, we bomb them to hell for their resources. Within our own country, we subjugate multiple groups of people to make sure that we stay on top. It's like, oh, so now you're telling me that I'm a villain? My history is villainous? Like genocide? No, that can't be me. It's an ego death. They can't face that. So the responsibility ultimately falls on the white people who can reconcile with that and like internalize it, cope with it, and then address their own white families and people. That's what it comes down to. It's not our responsibility anymore, or it was never our responsibility to educate them on that. Just remove the blinders from your own eyes and then take the blinders off the eyes of your white family members and counterparts. Sorry, I know I went tangential, but
no,
that wasn't.
I love it.
That
That's
wasn't
exactly what I was going for. That's what I was going for when I answered that question, because that lack of acknowledgement is, again, at the root of a lot of this hypocrisy, honestly. When you talk about the history of a lot of revolution or change, going back to their own history, America, like this constructing country that they found was founded on what? Violent protests, right? To whom their masters from Europe, etc.
Or to the Native Americans, because they
Native Americans, etc., within
Shit,
themselves.
God.
I talked about the Boston Tea Party earlier. He brought up like our own personal history, being Haitians, being the first like independent Black republic really in the world because of a violent protest that was successful against the French, etc. You see it in so many aspects of history, but nowadays, seemingly, they're attempting to try to make it seem like where they are in the current environment somehow came through altruistic means, that there was no sense of violence involved at all, which is complete bullshit. So.
Yeah. I mean, again, I just feel like it's their character. I feel like it's for them, for the white culture. I think it's a huge thing that they're missing, is that they have a common thing in common. They colonize, they steal other people's shit. And I feel like instead of learning your history and then actually being empowered and inspired from it and saying, you know what, actually, that's not what we're for. I think not African Americans, completely wrong. But I think white Americans, they completely just skip over the fact that slavery happened, and they skipped over the fact that they brought disease to multiple, like to the Native American community and wipe them out. They skip over that, and they highlight certain moments of them actually doing things that were humane, and they just focus on it. And I feel like in order for any change to really happen, I feel like you need to be real with yourself as a culture. You need to realize that, yeah, my culture has a lot of like racial undertones, a lot of like stereotypes that I hold towards other people, that, you know, like I'm prejudiced towards a lot of other people that aren't like me. And I've capitalized off of that. And I feel like in that realization, there is change. But until you can have that real uncomfortable conversation with yourself, not, oh, I support Black Lives Matter in this one case, you know, like until you have that real like soul search, there's not going to be any changes, because at the end of the day, it's going to continue to happen. It's going to continue to happen.
That want, to your point, Jimmy, about wanting to be the hero in historical sense, right? The savior of so many. And in that process, basically gloss over your crimes against humanity. Direct correlation to the lack of acknowledgement that we see present day. When these acts of racism, of intolerance are perpetuated, but rather than address the issue as is, they attempt to convince themselves that the plight of the Black man or the qualms that we bring to the forefront just aren't real, right? And then ultimately, to them, it's on us now to, in every situation,
pick up yourself by the bootstraps.
Not simply that, but also like it's on us as the victims to de-escalate every situation, right? Because it's not that the officers or the weekend warriors who somehow feel like they have the right to police their communities in the sense of Ahmaud Arbery. It's on us as the victims to their oppression and their overt racism to de-escalate the situation. We should have somehow been a bit more docile to not incite the violence, right? And it all stems from a lack of acknowledgement of your historical crimes.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like part that plays in there is kind of like almost outside, out of mind, but if it doesn't directly affect you, how much attention do you really pay things, right? Like this thing is going all going all around the world. Like most people know about Hong Kong, but not many people know about like the Muslim group that's being, you know, they have concentration camps. Like they're in camps right now in China also. Like there are big like other issues also that are going on also. Not many people know about it, right? And when those things don't necessarily affect you, you don't pay that any mind, you know. So we also, it's like a lot of it, part of it definitely stems from that. And I feel like everybody's guilty of that. You know, that's just like a human thing, right? But I guess outside of that, going back to the school point, like you don't learn any of this in school, right? They're not going to teach you that. You know, to the victor goes the spoils. They could write the history books. They could write that. You know, teach the masses whatever they want. So how do you get at that? How do you make sure, you know, how do you change that part? You know, because if every child is being taught the same thing and that's not including those facts, and then everybody's just a product of environment, you're not getting that, you're growing up, and it's like, we're expecting people to do this critical thinking because we are, but you can't expect that from people.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. You can't at all. Like that's like that takes a lot to be able to, you know, go inside and look at yourself differently and really take in a lot of that, right? Because a lot of that comes resistance and pain, you know, when you start to look at a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it's real tricky because I feel everything you guys are saying, but at the same time, it's like there's so many layers just like stacked upon of just ways this whole system and everything has been set to run. And it's like you got to peel it back layer by layer, right? There's no just one thing, and yeah.
You know, I definitely agree with that. I mean, it sounds easy and it's easy to be said. And I understand that some people are not, they don't have that self-awareness to have that critical thinking or that self-assessment. But what I will say is, I think being a Black person living in America, or just being a Black person in general, it's painful for us because we constantly get stereotyped under one box, and you can't, you know, like when you're around white people, you're not like the rest of them, but you are in certain aspects because you identify with them. Or why aren't you hip? You don't know how to dance. You don't know what's popping. You know, I mean, you get boxed into all these roles, and then you come home and you have to, and not everyone within the Black community does this, but you come and you're unpacking all of that. So I look at this and I was just like, why do you expect one set of people to do all that legwork, to rise to the occasion, to this and that, but you can't, you don't hold the same standards to yourself? You know, like, I get it. I don't expect them to think this far, but I feel like, and again, I'll have to reiterate, I will not applaud them for their understanding. If you understand the Black struggles, understand or understand that you don't understand it and you're trying to understand it, good for you, but I won't applaud you for that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna give you kudos for that. Thank you, but not really. Like, that's basic shit. It should be basic human things. But I mean, I don't know. To me, I'm just like scratching my head how it's just not fair. It's just not fair.
Jimmy?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think it's an illusion that white people, as part of the white illusion, it's an illusion that white people's fates are not tied to our own. So the destruction of Blackness does not just mean the destruction of Blackness. It also means the destruction of whiteness. Because we're so integral to the foundation of this country, because we're so important to this country in many different ways. If we fall or something happens to us, so do they. And I think they don't see that, and they need to. I hear like not having an expectation of white. I think I do. Personally, I have a high expectation of white people. I have an expectation of them to come to terms with all this shit and get it together and do what they need to do. Because it's gonna happen. Things are happening, not just within the United States, but all over the world. Change is happening. So if you are not standing with us, it's a standing in opposition, and you will lose. Because at the end of the day, these businesses that affects you. If I burn down the Target, yeah, it's an inconvenience. But if when people start marching in and doing other different things, that's gonna affect you. And the police department, unfortunately, is also an illusion of safety for the white community. That's not, fundamentally, we outnumber you. So if this starts to escalate, people come together, things are gonna happen. That is also a false sense of security. It's just all believing in a lie. And my expectation is for them to do better. Like, it's like having the expectation of a child who repeatedly does the same wrong shit. It's like, I'm not gonna stop expecting from you because you keep doing it. Now I'm gonna look at you and be like, you need to stop doing that dumb shit. Like, I've been told you to stop. You've had hundreds of years to stop doing it. That's my expectation.
I told your ass.
I've been telling your ass.
You still doing that dumb shit?
Sit your ass down. Didn't I tell you?
I'd just like to go back really quickly to a point that I said earlier. But I mean, I just want to make sure we all know what I meant when I said being Black is an inconvenience. Not more so being Black is an inconvenience, but the things that we have to go through is an inconvenience. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page.
And we
got that. We definitely got that.
Yeah.
I love being
That are not Black. I think that's very important to understand. There's no, I believe, I'm speaking for everyone in this group, there's none of us that hates being Black. We love our Blackness, and we will continue to celebrate our Blackness. We just are tired of having to go through extra loops and, jumping through hurdles to achieve the same that our counterpart doesn't necessarily have to go through it. And that is the inconvenience. But that's more so further expansion for non-Black.
You can't but not love Blackness. I mean, everything about us, from like our culture,
we got history,
swag.
Yeah. White people don't got history.
Is our history. There's nothing not to love.
Strength.
You're right.
Yes.
Resilience through bullshit for X number of centuries. So yeah, it's interesting how all those positive aspects are constantly tried to like be encroached on, right? The one thing that they seemingly never want, though, is the experience of being Black. Everyone would love the benefits that I just listed off, but no one actually wants the everyday of walking around here looking the way that we all do.
Yeah.
We tired. We're tired, exhausted of dealing with the bullshit that comes.
I personally feel like to white people, when we say Black Lives Matter, I feel like to them it's just a hashtag, but to African Americans it's more than that. I feel like it's way more than just a hashtag, or just because the first thing they say whenever you say Black Lives Matter is all lives matter. Yeah, we know that, we clearly know that, or y'all be dead too.
You don't know Black Lives Matter.
You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? We're a part of the all, dumbass. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? There's categories to this, man. Stop. There's categories to this. I'm African American. I matter. And it's bullshit. It really is. This whole thing, the fact that it had to get this far is ridiculous. Hold on, give me one second.
You good? So when it comes to you touched on this, Jimmy, police mentality and culture. You started us on this road. I don't know if anyone has any more thoughts on just up to this point and historically police mentality and culture.
Quick pause on that real quick before I touch on Jimmy's last point, where he said feeling like adults, like constantly telling a child to do something. Really, I like it, right? You always hit a point where, okay, you know, once somebody, it doesn't have to just be children, like once somebody is not listening to what something you have to say constantly, then you move straight to just actions, right? And I feel like this is part of it also, but touching back on something that I said earlier is like, when the time comes around, we need to go out and vote. Like, there is so much power that Black people, we as people hold, like, and I feel like it's just been stripped away from our minds. Like people, like when you realize, like when all these people stopped working, like what happened, and what happened to the economy and how everything just shut down, and you know, it's just like that's power, and then we within ourselves, our group, have power to affect these things, and just going back to that point, like we have to get out there, right? You got to change the management. You got to change who's in there, or else you're just gonna, you know, it's good. The same thing.
It's a great point, Chef. I saw an interesting statistic, and I think it was Andrew Cuomo who had brought this up, and you know, of the white people, he's been doing a pretty decent job, I must say. And hearing him speak and the things that he brings to the forefront as far as New York is concerned. But he brought up some statistics about this, or his brother, one of them. They were talking about the impact that COVID-19 and the shutdown had on people losing their jobs, not being able to pay their bills, et cetera. And of course, our demographic is affected at a higher rate than any other demographic, right? But then if you also parallel that to the term essential workers, as far as like the jobs that they deemed necessary during all this shutdown, the things that people can't be without and need, grocery stores, et cetera, transportation, our demographic makes up the majority of that category of essential work, right? So we are somehow more negatively affected by this global pandemic. But at the same time, what the majority of our people, talking about our aunts, uncles, some of our parents, do is considered essential and necessary.
Exactly. That is big.
Right.
Yeah, that's big facts. And like people, like, that's why I don't, like, you can't look down on what somebody does if it's not deemed to be successful by society, whatever the case is. Because even if this person deemed by you to have a simple job, or they're a janitor or something like that, like these people are doing work that you know, that's essential, like you say, like it has to get done. And like, even if people doesn't necessarily want to do it, like if all those people went away, like things are going to start coming down, right? Like, and that's a big point. I like that you.
Sorry, Trevor, I thought you were done.
No, go
ahead. To touch on what kind of Chef and Jimmy said.
Like the purple light, yo. The green and the purple, though, y'all killing that.
I saw a video where a white man was pretty much like, oh, I wish, you know, people of color more. He was mainly focusing on Black people. He was like, I wish they would just leave because I really want all white community for like my grandchildren and whatnot. And when I thought about it, I was like, now that we're speaking about it, just imagine if we just collectively decided to take back everything we've created, everything we inspired, everything we're working on at the moment. Do you know how much of their history would be gone? How much of their essentials would be gone? How much chaos they would be in if we just decided, picked up and left? And it's like, I feel like that's what people are understanding. Like, you don't value our lives as much, but a lot of the things you have going on, that was us. So
these buildings,
that was us, B.
So upset about, that was us actually.
Sci-Hi, New Africa, if you haven't heard it.
You know what they say when you're in trouble? Parents are like, you know, I brought you into this world, I can take your ass out. If we exercise any of that, I don't know what would happen.
I like the parent metaphor.
Yeah, because we've been teaching these people for years and they still don't fucking get it.
Right.
How many centuries you
And you
still
still
ain't learned?
don't get it?
Yeah, to the point. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm very happy that we touched on our pull when it comes to voting, because that's how we saw our first Black president in office. And also I'm very happy that we talked about like the socioeconomic, I guess, or the financial structure. We contribute so much to it, and any documentary that I watch, and I kind of realize like our dollar is not going into Black communities, it's not going into Black businesses. They're really just scant now.
Right.
And I know we've talked about this years ago when we first started our conversations before we decided to do a podcast. But like, I feel like the internet is even better in a sense where you can actually find, you may have to do some sifting. I've been sifting, but you can find ways to start to say, you know what, instead of going to these big chain places for clothing, it's let me support Black clothing artists or clothing I guess designers, or this is something that I'm trying to get my place together. Let me get Black art. Let me get Black furniture. Let me, we support the music industry. We definitely do, but like let's actually put our money into like, I don't know, musical funds for Black youths that that they have that access. I really feel like we need to put our money where our mouth is, and I really feel like that same energy with voting also applies to how we spend. I feel like in order for people to, so you will never, I cannot convince you that you're racist and you're killing us. Okay, that's fine. I recognize that I can't convince you, and I'm not going to convince you, but I'm gonna let you hurt. I'm gonna let you hurt in this way. And I'm pretty sure that should be peaceful enough for you,
Yeah.
No lives are taken in that sense,
To that point, I came across, I guess a movement maybe a couple of days ago in the midst of all this. Juneteenth came up, and I guess some people are trying to organize a rally around not spending our dollars on anything other than Black on Juneteenth. Right, and the whole historical facts about Juneteenth and whatever says Black people, another podcast in its own right. But when I read that, I was like, this is an amazing idea. But I thought, well, why not take it even further? Why does it have to be just a single day? If anything, a prolonged experience like this for the popular cultural group, for them to see that we as people can come together for an extended period of time, like our forefathers did decades, centuries ago, by not spending our money in their economic wheel, keeping it in-house, and then seeing how that negatively then affects their society. That's one of the ways, along with voting, that you can make meaningful change, because seemingly capitalism is the language that they speak, right? That humanity that we talked about, or reason, or acknowledgement of your past and history, none of that stuff seems to work. But what we know has worked in the past has been cash flow, and us as like major consumers. Honestly, as Black people, that's one thing that we do. We do consume a lot.
We do.
If we were to put our money elsewhere or in our own neighborhoods, so much change could come about from that.
Yeah. I know Rudy's not on this call, and I remember a while back he posed the question whether segregation was really messed with all of this, and segregation was necessary, and I'm not gonna say that it did not need to happen. Segregation was necessary.
The end of segregation, you mean?
The end of segregation. I'm not saying to be segregated was necessary. Thank you. Ending segregation was necessary. However, it really did mess with our I guess Black flow, Black businesses, in the sense where we weren't only just keeping our money within our community. We started to go elsewhere because, hey, now we can dine at a white restaurant, or we can, you know, go to a white school, or whatever it is. And that definitely hit hard. And I just, you know, like, I'll just tell you, for me, late before this even happened, I would say last weekend, you remember, I told Rudy I wanted to get some new workout clothes, and I was like, you know, I really don't want to go to a white-owned company. You know, I don't want to do the traditional Nike or Adidas, and I didn't want to do this Gymshark. I'm not putting them on, but you know, I now take it a point of my, whenever I'm shopping online, which I hate, but whenever I'm shopping online, I always go to the about section. I want to see who's putting this together. Like, what's the team like, you know, what inspired, I do that now. But before this, I was like, I really just want to get like a Black owned fitness, and like, you know, I'm not flashy with patterns. I'm not with anything. I wanted something simple. And when I looked, Black people are the athletes. Like, we are the athletes. And it was like very far, like it was few Black owned fitness apparel. And if they were there, like some of their products were like outdated, or it's been the same like line from 5 years ago or whatnot. So you can tell like they obviously can't keep up with production, and that bothered me. And then this week happened, and I was like, no, like if I have the choice, you know, then that's where I'm gonna go. If we can somehow organize, you know, like a Black garden, or like a, you know, area where we can get food or shit, just grow it yourself, then like I'm for that. Like, I really want us to flourish and get in tune with like our creative aspects, and get in tune with what we want to do, versus just doing the 9 to 5 and then being viewed as non-essential, but you are essential to the way the society runs. You know what I mean?
So there's a lot of power. Real quick, Jimmy, I want to make this point before I forget it in my older age. But there's something to keeping dollars within our community back then, right? So when we had like Black banks, our own grocery stores, our own towns. I think it was Sash, you brought this up a little while ago, speaking of Black Wall Street. You talk about places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, etc. Those were Black communities that were thriving on their own, right? Despite the overarching segregation and the what it imposed on us as a people within like this country, we were able to like establish these flourishing societies of our own. And there was a lot to that. You even talk about HBCUs and what they used to be prior to desegregation, so on and so forth. But speaking of Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was an infrastructure that was so successful. What ultimately ended up happening there? Right?
Blew it up.
You get that violent protesting, right? Violent protesting at the hands of whom?
Can it be considered
white people?
White people.
Do we consider that a protest when we were running? I feel like that was a riot.
That's a better term.
That was a riot.
That's it. That was a violent riot. That's the term that they love to throw at our gatherings now. That's what an actual riot was. When I'm pretty sure it wasn't just like infrastructure that was burnt to the ground and bombed, but actual people's lives were lost.
Taken. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's amazing again that blissful ignorance that is to say, oh, you want to pull up pictures of Martin Luther King walking with individuals and saying this is a protest and this is not. But if you actually look at your history and the violent rights that you've imposed on us in our own communities when we've been flourishing, it seems very hypocritical to me.
I mean, well, if you want to take it even back, I mean, when we were in Africa, I mean, how did we get dropped off at Haiti, Jamaica, and all throughout the Caribbean and all over the world? Like, I think that was violent too. You know, I really just want people to call a spade a spade. Like, just do it. If it's a duck, if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck. Just call it what it is. You know, I feel like we as Black people can handle the fact that you're racist, and we would appreciate you just saying, yeah, I'm racist. Okay, cool. You're racist. Now I know what we can maneuver that.
Yeah.
But to the outward, oh, I'm not racist, I don't see why you're mad. It's like someone, and Jimmy, you can take the psychology spin on this, but it's like someone telling you that you're like, you feel crazy and someone makes you feel crazy. And they're like trying to like downplay their involvement in it. Like it's ridiculous. It's like, I know I'm not making this shit up. Like,
Yep.
we see this. Like, how
This all goes back to the wanting to know.
in the process.
Yep.
It all goes back to the wanting to know.
Yeah.
Do they want to know? Do they want to believe, or do they want to just pretend like no? What are you talking? No, I'm not. We didn't do this. But remember, whenever no.
Yeah. As much as I subscribe to like this illusion that white people live in, I also subscribe to the awareness that they have of the illusion and how much they actively subscribe to the illusion. Like, I do not want to paint white people in this like vulnerable state, like, oh, they just don't know, da da da. No, they're aware that they live within an illusion, but they like that. It's like the Matrix. You can choose to live in it. In the first movie, when that dude decided like he's gonna continue eating the steak and stay in the Matrix, even though he knows it's a fake thing, that's white society essentially. So that's one thing. I wanted to make a separate point to buying Black in communities and things like that. Usually, and I'm not aware for Florida. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. When you go on your social media and you search your city's name as well as like businesses, things like that, oftentimes Facebook or other, and I don't want to pimp certain social media sites, but certain social media sites have pages where Black people have collected to advocate for their businesses. So here in Louisville, we have a like Buy Black Lou is what it's called. So if you need your car fixed, if you need things moved out, Nakia and I are moving out soon. We got Black movers, we got Black owned businesses, like things like that to help us help the community. So different areas also have that. So that's one way to support in that avenue. Additionally, this is like a complete side point that I've been holding on to, but in regards to the protests as well, specifically here in Louisville and Minneapolis, of what I've heard, officers are also provoking protesters, Black and white. And also when protesters have things like milk, water, things that when they start, shooting and spraying, they have items to heal themselves. They are purposefully targeting those areas and destroying
them.
I saw videos of that.
Yeah. So not only are they destroying them, they also have a government backing. So the mayor came out and said that he said that they had explosive liquids in mason jars, is what he said. So now they have the backing of a governmental establishment, like backing them and projecting to the rest of the community, white people and Black people and Latin people and everybody else in the community, that, oh, this was meant to be violent. So we destroyed this for a just cause. So we made sure they didn't do something bad and hurt themselves or other people. When that's not the facts. So that's why I'm really trying to project. You really have to tailor where you digest media from and who you digest media from. That's also a component of this that I think I'm like, some people don't realize. Like, you have to really filter what you're hearing and what people are saying, because you will be lied to if you just turn on the TV and start watching something.
Of course.
Like, you have to do your own work at this point, and that's everybody's responsibility. That's just the fact of the matter. Don't be lied to, especially as a Black community. It hurts me more when I hear a Black person, who doesn't have it together, who's trying to speak out. It's like, I'm going to come to your aid and try to help you understand a little bit better. I don't want to criticize you or shame you or anything like that. I'm going to tell you what it is, and I'm going to leave it there. White people, they got to do their own work.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know what? It's funny that you say that because I'd seen a video where this African American man was like, you see, they're leaving out big brick, like it was like a pile of bricks. And he was just like, when does construction ever leave a pile of bricks laying on the sidewalk? They don't do that. They don't do that. They, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something that you see often, but it's crazy that during this time, things like that just happen to be laying out there, you know? I feel like it's all a setup. It's definitely a setup, and it's just to provoke these things, to make it more violent. And regardless if it's the white people that are actually damaging things and actually, you know, burning down these places, it doesn't matter. All the fingers are pointed on African Americans. When you look up what is going on right now, regardless if in the picture you see white people walking with black people, it will say African Americans, black people are protesting, rioting, whatever the case may be.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that you like kind of go back to what Jimmy was saying, was that you know, if a fellow member is not really like in the right loop of their information, it's you know, it's kind of like a little love tap, like, come here, baby, come here.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk, you know, like, I know you're not getting the information from the right spot or whatnot. Like, I support you. I think that's huge. That level of, like, you know what, that sense of community is definitely what's necessary. Because you are right, Nana. There are definitely a lot of you know, media is good at what it does. It sends out whatever message it is trying to say to whoever their audience is. And I feel like in the internet era, the social or the immediate gratification era, I feel like a lot of people don't want to do the work. No one wants to go to page 10, 11, or whatever on the Google search feed, or they don't want to really dig and to question and to really just say, like, okay, like, I hear this, but, like, is this right, or is this sounding like, does this have like an opinionated tone to this? Like, and I understand it comes back to formal education or whatnot, but I feel like within our community, and when I say this, and I'm only going to say this once, I do not hate white people.
Yeah.
I do not hate any kind of people. But what I am not going to do is sit around comfortably watch my people get treated like shit and not put my efforts towards that. So my platform, whatever this platform is, whether it's here or my career or just me as I think I'm relatable, as a person, I am pro-Black. And I do not care if that offends you. If you want to read into that I don't care about blue lives or I don't care about all lives, that's your spin on it. I value life, but I just will not sit here and turn a blind eye to my community which we're suffering because of lack of, I mean, just bullshit, just bullshit. Lack of inner searching. I mean, like, I can go down the road, but I'm pro-Black, period. Other than that, I feel like if that means, like, hey, you know, like, someone's not going to do the work, if I can do my best in providing, like what you said, Jimmy, here are these resources. You go to what resonates with you. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to post someone's bail, go for this. If you want to just buy Black, go for that. Cool. You know, or you know what? Regardless, you need to vote. Like what Chev said. Like, I am all for that. Like that is that. You know, if, hey, you know what? It's not us that are actually impacting our community. It's actually people from out of town or people that are opposed to this. Really do the research on that. Or, you know what, actually it's not, you know, we're being peaceful, but they're actually trashing our property. you know, and how do you expect us to respond to that during that time where we're trying to do a peaceful protest, but they're slamming our water bottles? So now what? We need to get dehydrated. They're getting rid of things that I need. I mean, my thing is, I'm for educating our people. If there's someone that, like, from Rudy to Jimmy to Julian to Chev, honestly, anyone in this group, I've learned so much from you, whether it's about history, because I, at 31, am learning about my history. 31, I'm still doing the work at trying to understand my history. And I'm trying my best to not come from a hurt place, and I'm trying to maneuver that. So I appreciate people that are saying, like, hey, you know what, that's misinformation. Here's the right information. And here are these resources that you can do your own work. I'm so for that. Because if you don't love us, I'm glad I have people in my corner that loves us.
So on that note, I'd ask, like, everyone on this talk, when it comes to, like, information, when it comes to history, learning about ourselves, for our listeners, those that look like us, those that don't look like us, and want to know, and don't choose to be willfully ignorant, where do you guys go for your news and your information? Knowing that, you know, if you just turn on the TV, depending on what channel you might watch, you'll get a skewed view of, like, what actually is happening. Where do you go for the least biased, most objective form of information that you can get at this time?
I think in this era, it's not ever just one source. I think you have to follow multiple sources and then cross-reference things. So mainly, the first thing to start with is following pages and groups that are supportive of Black individuals. So ACLU is one. I'm blanking on all the names, but if you have a group in your community that is pro-Black, and you follow them, go down their follow list or their friends list and continue to follow more. Build that network around yourself of Black support, Black empowerment, Black everything, because there is a Black presence and a Black voice and Black news in social media. So that's what's worked for me. So that's kind of how I've surrounded myself. So the minute, you know, CNN or Fox News may reach more people with their information, I myself have cultivated a bubble of Black interests that will provide news that is truthful and honest, and it's objective. Like, there are many people on there, for example, Black Lives Matter Louisville. Yes, there was a protest last night. Yes, property was destroyed. We will admit that there are sections and groups that were outside of ourselves that were participating in this. We do not condone that. If those individuals would like to come and receive training, if those individuals would like to come and understand how protesting actually works, we'll do that with them, so on and so forth, whatever. So you'll find that. So when people try to put out that, oh, well, it won't be objective, then it's like, your news is already not objective. So how about you follow a news source that is as objective as it can be and supports your skin?
And to, multiple. That's also key. Not receiving information from just one source, right? It has to be varied points of view, because it's, you know, when it comes to, like, the truth, there's his, hers perspective, and then in the middle, what actually happened, right? So your sources have to be varied in that sense as well. So great points, Jim. Anybody else thoughts on that?
I'm with. Go ahead, Chad.
Oh, okay. This is kind of touching on back in the earlier, what Jimmy said. I kind of disagree about people being woefully ignorant. I think there is I think that makes a percentage, maybe more so people around inner cities and stuff like that. But when I really look at it, and to all the points you stated, media and whatnot, I think the system, the illusion is so well done that it's not even for people from, like, smaller areas or whatever the case is, not in the city, you're not Tacitus. I don't even think that's willful ignorance. I just think, like, it's set up so well in such a way that this is just what you see and is what you believe. Like, it's just here. Like, that's just, everything that you're just pumped into, like you said, like the major news stations, CNN and Fox, like they all have their own agenda. You have to go willfully look out for this. And, you know, these different sources. I lost my train of thought for a second. Damn.
The fuck is that?
Don't worry about it,
feel
bro.
that.
It be happening.
I
Just
feel
like that.
All good, bro.
It be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
All the time. Plenty of times when y'all be talking like shit.
Damn it.
It.
What was that again?
Yeah, nah. I was just saying all that to say, just like, I just think this system is so screwed, just like the media. And I've actually started looking at, just as far as like US news, looking at news reported from other countries to try to just get away from the propaganda and the sides, looking at it from like a view, just like a bystander from the outside, and not taking sources from the US. Well, I obviously look at those too, but as a comparison, like you said, I do think you need to get a view of what's out there, right?
Yeah, I've gotten in the habit of like, I'll watch like BBC World News at times,
Yeah.
or other events
Yeah.
going on, just to get like a global sense of like,
The
or what does
pandemic.
the world think about the bullshit that's happening here on my footsteps? I think that's also
We are
clearly important.
concerned.
And then also gives you, it's interesting to see like the response that other countries will have to your own plight that, as well. Earlier today, seeing like all the stuff that was happening in London and other parts of Europe in response to George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, et cetera. It was refreshing to kind of see that. So great point again, Chev, as far as like, you know, your news shouldn't solely come from this land, right? I think seeing what other people, other like cultures, ethnic groups from around the world are thinking about these events is like vital as well.
I agree. When all this was happening, I think it came actually before this was happening, when the pandemic was happening. Not when, it's still happening. What the hell am I talking
Yeah,
about?
right.
I have
We in
patients
there.
to see tomorrow, which are COVID positive. So I don't know what I was talking about. But no, when it first began and it came to the shores of the United States, I think a lot of people started questioning the healthcare infrastructure, and they were just wondering like how, like, we're clearly not equipped for a pandemic, and it's going to be very bad because there are going to be certain people that are just going to flat out die because of lack of resources, which we all.
Quick point, Kim, to what you just said. The police are better equipped to handle riots than healthcare professionals to handle pandemic.
Clearly.
And that's an issue. Like, what?
Clearly, yeah, they definitely do, and that. Thank
You
you.
got armored vehicles and all this other stuff.
Seriously.
You got everything for this,
I mean,
but healthcare professionals, they can't get a mask and
Yeah,
everything they need. Like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, shout out to a friend of mine who is on Ground Zero. She's a PA
In New York City.
in New York City. And I told her, I was like, hey, I've been using this N95 mask for like 3 weeks. And she was just like, what? And I was like, yeah, you know, like, just, they got to use it till it doesn't work no more. The illusion of when it stops working. And she was like, nah. So she sent Rudy mask, and she sent me some masks. So I thank you, Tanya. But no, like when all this stuff happened or was beginning to happening, and I remember having this discussion with some colleagues of mine, and we all came to the conclusion that the United States, the problem with the healthcare in the United States is that they don't look to other countries to realize what's working for them and kind of like perfect that. We just think America's so great and what we have is like so awesome and it benefits everyone. And oh, okay, well, it's just a small amount that don't benefit from it, so it's okay. And I think that's the problem too. Like if within our society, within our society, we really challenge, or maybe as citizens, if we really challenge the politicians to really create change and to do things that will better our like us, the citizens. I really feel like we would be looking at other countries and saying, okay, so they have universal healthcare. How do they do this? How are people still able to flourish in whatever way they want to flourish? But everyone is able to benefit from this. And I really feel like that's the thing. We think we're hot shit. And what we got going on is like top notch, and we're not trying to grow. That's the thing that kills me. You have one life to live. Like, we all come on this earth to have one life to live, and you're telling me you're gonna be raggedy your whole entire life? There's no amount of growth that you're gonna allow yourself to experience. Even if you want to look across the seas and say, okay, well, they were on this years ago. They changed that. There's reform, there's social reform, and there's all these reforms. What can we do to better our citizens?
That doesn't financially benefit the white wealthy rich.
Yep.
I know, but
Remember,
still.
like, we
No, that's the point.
That's what
Yep.
it boils down to.
There's like James Baldwin said, like he's shocked at the complete lack of heart of the American people. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. It's a lack of heart. The value, again, is not placed on moral, brother to brother, sister to sister, like support of another person. Value is placed on monetary gain. The richer you are, the more support you get. The value is placed, or worth is placed on the more money you have. If you're wealthy, that means you're a better person in America, which is untrue. It's an unfathomable lie, but that's what America is rooted in. So, that's what it is.
So the wealthier you are, the seemingly more valuable you would be, right? That was the perception. But
That is the perception.
That's the perception. What did COVID show us? Like the 1% that everyone is so hung up on, that owns the majority of the wealth in this country, et cetera. In a situation like this, a pandemic, where the economy comes to a grinding halt, the term that they coined themselves, essential. What is more essential than the people providing the services that support daily life and function, right?
Because we got it messed up. We lost thinking that the government should be serving us, and it's like we're serving the government.
We're serving
this money for like.
But yeah, the fact of the matter is, this whole shit comes crumbling down without the people deemed less valuable. And they're deemed less valuable because they have less of the wealth being money that money holds its value based on what we as people say. We say that $10 is $10 or $100 bill is really a $100 bill, but at the end of the day, it's a piece of paper. But how does it actually hold its true value?
The ultimate, so I'm gonna say this real quick, and I know it's out there, but the ultimate change that will come in the United States, I believe a huge part of that will become either the dismantling or complete reformation of the capitalistic system. Because if that is the root of your culture and where you place your value, capitalism is not what you should base things off of, because that's what's running everything. It's capitalism. You need to either incorporate socialistic ideas or completely reform it with socialistic ideas with good people in standing to monitor for corruption. Like, capitalism is a failed infantile method of running a system.
I mean, you look at it, when you can keep people, when people have to just focus on surviving, living paycheck to the paycheck, less gets done. There's less issues to go around. Look what happened when we went from hunter-gatherers to living in these communities, developing these economies. Like, we flourish. Look what happened when people have a moment when they have just the ability to just not worry about surviving and feeding themselves and looking after everybody and having some like a roof under their heads. Like, you have the chance to make this reform, or you have a chance to make your voice heard and explore these areas. And it's sad because it's almost like, as far as capitalism is concerned, I think that's kind of what it wants. It wants the majority of us to just, you know, we're living paycheck to paycheck. We can't worry about like fixing these laws and trying to and look for police reform and what the case is. We're just stuck. We gotta survive, so we're just gonna keep on working ourselves to death. And you know, it's
That's
crazy.
the setup. The setup is that everybody can't win. If everybody's winning, then who's gonna lose? You know what I'm saying? Like the white people they're gonna be rich, and in order to stay rich, they need to drag somebody down in order to elevate, and they're dragging us down. And even when African Americans do evolve and they are rich and, you know, they're intelligent, whatever, and even like regardless of the money, just being intelligent, it's looked down upon. You know, it's not a good thing.
I just feel like I don't know, and I think I keep coming back to this from this angle, and I feel like I understand what Julian meant, where, you know, it comes back down to humanity, and I look from things from this angle where it's like it really shouldn't have these complexities, these multiple layers, but it does.
Yep.
And we recognize that it does, but it's so unfortunate that the one shot at a meaningful life, meaningful in whatever degree that is to you, you already have premeditated like things set in place to prevent you from flourishing. Kendrick Lamar's album "To Pimp a Butterfly" will always be top tier in my mind. That and Damn will always be top tier, because you know why? And Good Kid, Mad City. Same, literally, Kendrick's
I love Damn.
work.
Section 80.
It really is. And I mean, from beginning to end, particularly To Pimp a Butterfly, how many of you, and I don't, just strip away like where you at or where you're going. Just think about certain things that you wanted, or when you were younger, what you thought you would have achieved. And along the road, you kind of talked yourself out of it because of whatever society told you. Or whatever restraints or hurdles that you would have had to go to become that. Or even where you're going, which you're like, shit, I feel like I'm crazy. I don't know how the hell I'm gonna pay for this, how I'm gonna do this, but you know what? I'm gonna take a leap, because you know what? This is one shot. Multiple people don't look at it from that angle. They look at it like what you said, Sheb. They're just trying to survive, and that's so sad. People have died with just not leading meaningful lives, and I look at this like, if we're here on this earth, a part of a planet amongst other planets, amongst a huge ass galaxy, amongst other galaxies, you're really telling me that if I see 100 years, most of us won't, but if I see 100 years, and I'm Black and I have this, and I'm a woman, or I'm a Black man, whatever it is, like I'm really, like I start the pavement off less than you, and I don't necessarily, my life may not lead to a meaningful life, or even remotely what I wanted for myself. That is so heartbreaking. Yeah. And you're telling me that we're gonna create generations upon generations that are gonna probably do that? Like, it's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. And that's why I come back down to just like the humanity aspect of it, where I'm like, you know what? Even if you are racist or whatnot, like, I would hope that you can look within yourself on a human to human level and look at things. But if you're racist, I don't expect you to do it that way. You view yourself superior. But it's so sad, because it really isn't gray. It is straightforward.
Kim bringing up that Kendrick and his whole body of works, apparently, but specifically To Pimp a Butterfly. was probably one of the first albums that I actually listened to straight through, because before I really didn't listen to albums. Specifically, we actually listened to a couple tracks yesterday from that album, because again, I think there were so many like parallels from something that came out a few years ago, and then with the very last track on that album,
Mortal Man,
stuff that, you know, the great Tupac mentioned decades ago. I remember that last track, Mortal Man, where Tupac comes in and he speaks about the ground is going to swallow the evil. And he says the ground is basically the poor people, etc. I draw a direct parallel to like that statement from, again, the 90s to exactly what's happening now with these protests in all their forms.
He mentioned,
and hearing that and seeing that like manifest in the way it's manifesting in front of us today, and also hearing a line that he makes in that speech, speaking about how, you know, as a Black man in America, you actually have a few decades where you can actually like impart change by being on the ground, vocalizing and attempting to make change in that sense.
you don't see no loud ass 30-year-olds.
Specifically states that, you know, how many 30-year-olds you see out here, how many loud ass 30-year-olds you see, and that stuck with me. It stuck with me like back then when I first heard the songs, even now, and it's like, I'm in my 30s now. I'm like,
Are you loud mouthing it?
Right, am I loud mouthing it? Like, nah, the guy, seemingly I haven't been, and I want to be a loudmouth 30-year-old. So yeah, like it's interesting to again see how time moves forward. Faces change, names may change, but really these underlying societal issues are all the same.
Yeah,
and we need loudmouth, like teen, early 20, 30, 40, etc. year olds to continue to make noise in our community. To impart change. And that's what I intend to be.
He even mentioned that, you know, like you get to a point where, you know, the protesting starts to become violent. And I am not someone that wants things to get violent. I really don't, because I know someone loses in the end. But we know the reality is things will get violent. And it is the nature of humans. That's what it is. But I encourage anyone that's listening to listen to Pimp a Butterfly, and particularly XXX on Damn, because you will if you for a second think that Black people are not reacting the way that they should, listen to that. There is no way in hell you're gonna kill anybody in my family, and I'm not gonna want to send that same heat to your ass. That's just not happening. I'm not a mother, but if I was a mother, there's no way in hell you killing my son. Okay? What? There's no way in hell you killing my daughter. There's no way in hell you killing anybody in my family, and I'm gonna be quiet. Sorry.
I will do the time.
I'm not even worried about the time. There's just no way. There's no way that you think I'm going to be peacefully protesting. You cannot expect that from me. You cannot expect that from me, especially after a lineage of you constantly doing this. It's not an isolated event. It's not that. I cannot sit here and honestly say that I will turn the other cheek and forgive you. I cannot sit here and say that. I would hope that I would get to that level of peace, but I can't tell you that. So
it's sad that even
Go ahead.
Sad that even after all these years that you can't even say that it's looking like things are going to get better. I don't care what nobody say. Nothing has gotten better at all. Nothing has gotten better at all when it comes to African Americans and white people. Nothing. The only difference now is that we can be in the same building together. Regardless, nothing else has changed. You know, like absolutely nothing else has changed. And for anybody to say that there has been a change and that they have given us privileges, and bullshit, man. No, you know, no. People are not getting charged for their crimes.
Yep. And they didn't give us anything.
Right.
Actively taking for years and years. That's what had to happen.
We have been forcefully taking. There's no way that we can go walk into the governor's, whoever, walk up to the president and say, can you please? No. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's bullshit. You can't walk up to anybody in the government and say, please, please. You know what I'm saying? They'll laugh in your face. Laugh in your face. There's nothing that we have in our hands that we didn't fight for. Black people have been fighting from day one. I don't think there's a day that has passed that African Americans have not fought for something. Yeah. You fight for your job. You fight for school. Respect. You fight for scholarships. You fight the same thing. I mean, it's every person. You're fighting to keep your GPA up. You're fighting for every single thing. You're fighting for that spot that you did the same time in school for as this white kid. You're fighting for it. I mean, there's nothing else to it but that. White people can't say they've had it hard. I don't care if you grew up in the hood. You were the only white person in the hood. That don't mean shit. Okay? That doesn't mean nothing to me. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Because when you walk into a building, people don't stare at you. People don't look your direction and think, you know what I'm saying? Like, white people can't say that when they walk into the room that their appearance rejects them from elevating or moving forward in life. It doesn't. If anything, it helps them. You know what I'm saying? It does. Something as simple as having tattoos and walking into a building. Oh my God, being African American, having tattoos, having whatever. I mean, you walk into the room and instantly they think all kinds of stuff. There's a stereotype that is hung over our head from the moment that we are born. Yeah. You know? Before we're born. We come into this world with a stereotype hanging over our head, and we're completely chained down. They don't want to let us go. They don't want us to elevate. They don't want us to do better.
So, in all that,
my bad. I was.
Huh? Go ahead.
Oh, I thought I was talking, but I was on mute. Everything I've heard and everything comes back to what Julian said earlier is just like everything's just about appealing to the humanity, and whichever way it comes out, if it's peacefully or if it's violent, it's just like it all circles back to that, right? In some way, we're seeking just this affirmation that we're human, just like you. Like we're like just the same, and it's been a long time coming. And I don't know why in my head that line from Kanye West, "All falls down," came in my head. It was like, how's it go? Even if you in a Benz, you still a nigga in a coupe. Like it's still like that. Still trying to appeal to humanity. You can make it, but you still have that label on you, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's a true statement. You're not one of them. Just it is what it is. And honestly, I don't think any of us would want to be one of them. I think we would want to have the same privileges and experiences as them, but not necessarily be them. But I mean, I know in a lot of this conversation, it's raw emotion, and it comes off, I know for me, it comes off very angry, because I am angry.
Yeah.
And I'm also sad that this is the current state of things. And I'm also sad that I have to feel anger, because I hate feeling this way. I hate feeling like, God, I just pray to God that my family and my close friends are safe. I just pray to God that not only the pandemic doesn't get them, but I just pray to God that just life doesn't rip life from them in any form, figuratively or literal. I just want my people to flourish, and that's really it. But in the midst of all this like anger and all this stuff, I hear a lot of things that are inspiring. I feel like in order to move forward within yourself as a person, you have to kind of go through a little bit of pain or a lot of pain to recognize what's in front of you and kind of realize that you can navigate those avenues perfectly fine. But I think the one thing I love is awareness within this group, the awareness to how you're feeling and just kind of a common respect for how everyone else is feeling amongst us. Because some people are more angry, some people are more sad, some people are just fucking tired and exhausted. And although we all share those commonalities, I will tell you, I feel so inspired just by the conversations that we've had, because I feel like, A, I'm not alone, I'm not fucking crazy, and B, like, you know what, we will be fine. We will be fine because we've always had the choice, or not had the choice, we've always been fine, because that's just us. We rise to the fucking occasion. Yeah.
I think the part that really upsets me and hurts me the most is not the protesting that's going on right now. It's the aftermath, that there's a higher chance that this will just be another fight and another protest for African Americans that is just going to go in the books, and that's it. And that it's just going to be brushed over, and that nothing is going to get done. And though it might have made all of us stronger, and it will make everybody stronger, it's still painful to know that the chances of us actually seeing a change is way less than it just going back to some bullshit is going to come. Some bullshit is going to happen on the news, and people are going to forget about this.
You know,
African Americans won't forget about this, but white people will forget about this. And it'll be another one in the books that we will remember in our memory, and that we'll tell our kids, and that our kids will tell their kids, but we'll still have to suffer.
I felt that way at first, but then part of me feels like this time will be different just because of the situation. Because people have time right now. People have the time, the day, the energy to put forth right now because of this pandemic. And I feel like it could be, we know nobody knows the reason why things happen and why it comes about, but I feel like this could be one of those cases where we have this moment in time where people can all focus on something like that and put forth that effort to actually make something a change that will last longer than your typical news. Oh, it's here and then it's gone. But
I hope
that's just me hoping for that.
Yeah.
We'll still see what it comes out to, but
yesterday I was in my feelings all yesterday. I can't even count how many times I cried. I was just feeling like disheartened. Okay, whatever.
There's no milk.
Wow, that's crazy. But I was feeling really disheartened by the whole thing because I was just going through so many different scenarios in my head. Like, all right, like, what is the solution after all the protesting, all the lives being taken? Like, what is the solution to this? And I was coming up with so many solutions in my head that they could have worked, but essentially everything takes time. But I was talking to my roommate today, and I was like, I know we had protests in the past and different things. I'm not sure if it's just because since I'm older, I'm more aware. And since now there's so much social media, I'm seeing everything. But personally, me, these protests definitely feel different than they did years ago or last year or 2 years ago. I feel like so much has just built up in the Black community. Like, these are just personally, these feel different. Like, I don't feel like
I'm
We're just
listening.
gonna let it die out.
Well, social media is definitely evolved. I mean, back then, the emotions, you know, you only hear so much from word of mouth, but now that everything is, there's videos, there's pictures, you know, there's research that you can do. All that stuff is there, and you can, it's like you can feel the emotions through the screen. You know what's going on. You can do your research. You know all that. So absolutely. I mean, it's reaching out to a ton of more people than it would have back then. You know what I'm saying? So absolutely. African Americans have evolved tremendously over the years, especially because these killings, they've been going on. I mean, they've been going on for years, but now that people can record them and post, you see it on social media all the time. You'll see the same video over and over again every day. I mean, at least weekly, you'll see the police have killed an African American, or not the police, but a white person has killed an African American for a pointless reason.
To add to this conversation, I really am hoping that there is a change, because I feel like this is different compared to the protests in Ferguson years ago. And part of the reason why, and this is going to be very graphic, and it's just me, I hope that our community gives that same energy as that cop that had his knee on our brother's neck, right? I hope that that's the same energy where we will not let up on that fight. We are not taking our knees off of the fact that Black lives do matter. We're not taking our knees off the fact that, you know, what we need, the social disparities and the economical disparities need to end. I hope that we keep that same energy. And I do feel like we can, partially because Chev said, you know, it is a different time. You know, as much as they want to reopen businesses, I feel like people are still kind of cautious. You know, things aren't back to normal. I don't care what anyone says. This is not normal. And I feel like because you have a little bit more time on your hands, you're not distracted by, you know, social events like concerts that are happening, or, you know, movies that are coming out in the theaters. There's not this overload of like distraction. I feel like people have the time to actually process what they're going through in a meaningful way. And I hope that we just don't let off of that neck. That same energy of racism, I hope we stifle the shit out of that. That's just the best way. We ain't fucking checking for pulses in this bitch. No, we're out here to stomp that shit out. So, yeah, that's. I feel like we can, and I feel like we will. And if not, yeah.
That's Julian. That's merch. Stomp the neck out of tyranny. That'll be available soon.
Yes.
Yeah, there is. Oh, Rudy, hold on. Sorry, you guys. Well, I'll just tell you while I'm talking to him. There's cops or helicopter that's circling. That's kind of why sometimes we're like, what's going on? And we saw like this army truck. So I'm guessing there's something.
You know, 95 closed down, right?
Yeah,
Huh?
gotta check.
95 is closed.
Down.
Yeah.
They're walking down 95.
Well, there's a downtown Fort Lauderdale right now. There's something going on. Somebody just texted me about it. And again, like Kim was saying, we've been seeing like helicopters. You can see one right now from our window.
Wow.
And like trucks
There
and
was
everything.
the army.
You know what they need to do? They need to take their behinds to Trump, and they need to burn down all of Trump's, his house, all of that. They need to burn down. What's that island that he's got, that little beach area? Mar-a-Lago? Just set that off. Somebody play that song.
What is
Don't
this?
set this bitch off.
Yeah.
That is
You
how
know, right there?
If y'all are doing stuff like that, please be
Road
safe.
right there.
Like, try to.
Oh, they're tear gassing and everything down right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's so sad.
It is sad. It is sad. I seen a video of a little girl that had got tear gassed. She had to have been 10 maybe. And I was like, that's just disgusting. You know what I'm saying? Like, how could the police be upset at us for retaliating? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and that's a good word to use, Nana. Retaliation. It's not.
yeah.
It's provoked. It is police officers running over citizens who are protesting. It's police officers antagonizing them.
Mm-hmm.
It's police officers doing it for the sake of doing it.
And it's not one incident either. This is years of just biting our tongues and just trying so hard to fight. Play the game. And it gets to a point where you just can't anymore. You gotta put the remote down and you gotta get in there. You gotta. Yeah. Yep. Enough is enough. Honestly, a person can only take so much, and you're talking about groups of people. You're talking about a whole race that has had enough.
I think this is a turning point, and it's scary. It's exciting.
Yep.
But I don't know. I think this is definitely the turning point of just for everything. I don't think that I'm gonna wake up next week and be like, well, time to go back to my 9 to 5. Like,
yeah,
nah,
now.
Yeah,
it's extra different. Like, I don't know. It's definitely something I want to be a part of, and I'll do as much as I can, because this is what do they say? The revolution is here. It really is. Like,
It is.
It's crazy. Like, there's too much going on to not be
Involved.
They put curfews in place.
Yep. You gotta be involved somehow.
Yeah, then I think we should donate to the bail for down here, because the jail is right there.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm listening to what you guys are saying, but
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta get out of here, y'all.
All right.
Yeah.
Safe.
I appreciate you.
For being on.
Yeah.
Appreciate
man.
your time.
Good seeing you.
Yeah. Until next time, hey, y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay,
Same here.
You too,
blessed
man.
out there. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
I love all of y'all.
Love you too,
Much love.
Bro.
Love you.
Much
Love you.
love,
Bye.
guys.
Straight up.
bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless.
And I will say, we had a prior conversation to some friends of ours earlier to having you guys or talking to you guys. And I will say, like I told them, I'm so grateful for you guys. I have not really had the opportunity to like talk through some of the feelings that I've been feeling, and it's been like a lot of processing on and off. I think I understand how I feel, but then I realize I get a wave of emotions, whether it's like complete sadness and I'm crying, or it's just like rage. But I promise you this was very useful, because I would have been going into work on Monday hella mad.
Yeah.
I feel like I am angry, but I'm not, it's not so raw where I'm still like unpacking as I'm still interacting with people, So I'm very grateful for family and, family that allows you to just flesh out what you're going through, even when it's ugly. This shit is all ugly. I would love for this meeting to have been just like goofing off and fun. But I think it's good when we can actually be real with each other and raw, because we're all in different places and we all have to compose ourselves or just kind of keep ourselves from going down a dark rabbit hole on our own,
Yep.
So I'm very blessed and grateful, because I'm sure not everyone has the same sense of community.
Yeah.
Likewise.
I agree.
Likewise.
I definitely agree. Yeah. And not every family can do this.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, Julie, you've been a little quiet for a while. I know you tend to process a lot of information, but
Leave them alone.
No, I think, I don't know, I've had a lot that I wanted to say, but it's all just floated by. You know, we're all talking and everybody has their points and expressing their feelings. Just like Kim said, I think it's good to have that therapeuticness about it. So um, I think the only thing I want to say really that I've been holding is, you know, I know we all want to, sometimes we focus on the negative aspects, or things might not change, or it feels like these type of things keep happening and people go back with the same mentality that they had. And we're all talking about white people and the work they need to do and, you know, this, that, and the third. Um, I just feel like with these things happening, there's a reason for it. You know, this is the corrective measures that nature is taking on humanity. You know, if that sounds extreme, that might sound extreme, but it's happening. Coronavirus, you know, this now, you know, videos, being able to see graphic things happening is not just for you know, being desensitized and not feeling anything. It's for people to see it and feel something towards it. When people feel something towards it, they change. So it's for everyone. When everyone sees these things, they change. So I want to put more emphasis on the fact that people will change. People are changing. Um, you know, the self-awareness that is needed for people to have compassion, it will come with these things happening. And the more emotions, the raw emotions that are being shown, displayed, all across the world for everyone to see. When they see it, they feel something. When they feel something, they change. So everything that's happening is facilitating that. This is by nature that it happens. It's the law. It has to correct itself, or else it's destruction. That's the case in evolution. You either grow or you die. How does humanity grow from now? It's only consciousness. It's only consciousness. It's only the effect that these things happen on you and your ability to see it universally, not just by skin color, not just by race. We're all talking about race, skin color, all of that. It's important. When we learn to not see these things and see unbiasedly, we're always talking about bias and stereotypes. These are the problems. How do you unroot these things? You unroot them with self-awareness, awareness that you are not the conditioning, you are not, you know, these violent things, or you're not, you know, all of these emotions that are negative and are being acted upon with violence, police, brutality, all of these things. Seeing these things and being able to distance yourself from it is the key. So my thing is, it only takes one self-aware person in any form of a job, government, policing, politics. All it takes is one person to make that change. All it took was one person to be compassionate in that moment with George Floyd. One of those cops. One of those cops. All of they, and I just come back to that because it's a simple thing. Like Kim, we've been saying, it's a simple thing. It seems so complex, but I put the emphasis on that. You change yourself, you could change everyone around you. Keep with that in mind. We all keep with that in mind, and change will come. Change is coming now. It's not a choice. This is showing it's self-evident. So I think I've been holding that for this whole conversation.
That was
I like
beautiful.
Salient.
I like that. Mind blowing.
I started off by saying he was a guru. I didn't see why.
Yeah. He's like
Right.
the
Yes.
person where like pitchforks, meet their pitchforks. Let's support. But no, I hear you. Definitely hear you. I mean, I don't think I've ever been from my place of living and seen, you know, police circling around the block or whatnot. And I've lived in cities too, you know, like not suburbs. Um, so I agree with that. But you know what? I also am in a place where I'm not worried about others, or at least let me backtrack. I'm getting to a place where I'm not necessarily worried if other people want to do that work or not. for me, I know it's simple as humanity. And I'm pro-Black, and I'm honestly pro-people, but in this political climate, I'm pro-Black, because I really want us to have the same opportunities as our counterparts, and I feel like that should just be basic human, like that's just basics with being a human. But yeah, all I can do is work for me, and I hope that, you know, whether it's this podcast or whether it's just people that we feel comfortable that are what we stand for reaches them. But I know that sometimes it's easier said than done, but you are right. It is a different world that we're living in, because coronavirus has natural selection in itself. This shit is knocking out people. I don't know if it's the most natural, it's a fair natural selection. But it is knocking out people, particularly our people. But, you know, this is the time, because, I mean, normally weekends are packed. So,
If I can
protesting.
If I can find links, I know Stash is in Orlando. The rest of y'all are in Palm Beach or Fort Lauderdale. Nana, you're in Tennessee?
Yeah, Clarksville.
Clarksville. So in all those locations, if y'all would like, I'll try to dedicate some time to looking up different resources, different things in your areas that you can either donate to, get involved with, or that could just help facilitate your own personal healing and feel supported. So I'll do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, baby.
Appreciate that.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Ooh.
Humanity. Is that the
Where's Sheriff right now?
He had to leave.
realize when Chef said bye to everybody?
Where does he
Destin.
live?
Amir.
Where does he live?
Oh, where he live? Oh,
Amir.
Dustin.
Destin.
Destin. I said Dustin.
My bad, bro.
Yeah.
Say hi, baby.
Amir.
Say hi, babes.
On that note, folks, again, thank you to all my guests, my family, really, at this point, who took time to come together and talk about, you know, the current state of things. And in your word, Amir,
Be quiet. Amir's trying
your
to
uncle. You're so cute. I'll let it pass.
Oh, look at that face.
He's beautiful.
He's reaching for the camera.
Say, Boogie Boogie, say crazy, 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 crazy man.
Oh, look at that smile.
Say crazy, 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 crazy man. Oh, oh, thank you for the kisses.
But no one.
Thank you, my kisses. Give me a kiss. Oh, thank you so much. You're so sweet. Oh, why are you doing
You
that?
steal the show, Amir. You're so cute.
Julian, edit point.
No, this we keep.
Humanity.
Humanity. Yeah. Yeah, man. This was good. I enjoyed this.
Fun.
Yeah, this was nice.
Man. And
Very
don't be
empowering.
surprised
I've
I
learned a
reach
lot.
out. Do not be surprised that I reach out again in a couple of days, because I feel like it's going to be so much more. Like, to your point, or to Shug's point about how the different climate, the time that we have on our hands,
Yeah.
similar to COVID, this might be something that doesn't go away anytime soon.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay.
love y'all. Be
Love you.
safe.
Much
you.
love.
Keep
Much
progressing.
appreciation.
Be safe.
Love y'all.
Love you all.
Say, guys.
Love you
Say
guys.
bye-bye. Say
Peace.
bye-bye.
Bye, Amir.
Bye. Go bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right, fam. Good night.
Good
All
night.
right, y'all.
Good
Night.
night, guys.